Jason, good to have you back. So it seems like there's, even beyond the details here, this ongoing disagreement between the left and the right, Democrats and Republicans, over whether this is more about cutting government down and keeping taxes down, or if it's about bigger government and more, the upper middle and upper classes paying more. Isn't that the real issue here, that this administration and this Congress is trying to shift the balance?
Look, there are two separate issues. One is what is going to happen to the deficit and debt. And here, every single plan put forward by the Republicans this year would increase the deficit, would increase the debt. And in fact, the Senate plan would increase it even more than the House plan, which is currently under debate. Then there is, as you said, a separate issue of to what degree do you want to address things on the tax side or the spending side. Here's something notable. The House bill does cut spending. The Senate budget template actually increased spending on things like security and border, even more than it cut spending in areas like Medicaid. So the Republicans are much clearer about cutting taxes than they are about cutting spending.
What about the argument that extending the tax cuts is going to allow for growth that eventually pays for this? Why doesn't that work?
The original tax cuts that passed in 2017 had two parts. One, cut the corporate rate from 35 to 21%. I think that was pro-growth. It was important. That was also permanent. Everything that's coming up now was the more family-friendly, but less pro-growth part of the tax cuts. They've then added to it things like tax-free tips, overtime, and Social Security. That has nothing to do with economic growth. There's no tax reformer I know that was calling for those. Those were really campaign promises. So I do not expect very much growth to come from these tax cuts.
There's the issue of Medicaid cuts in here. And for a long time, that's been a third rail in American politics, to talk about cutting Medicaid. Is it healthy to at least be talking about it? And are these cuts not reform?
Look, I think if it was putting everything on the table, I'd be for that. I'd put Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. I'd put it all on the table. The issue here is that the Medicaid cuts in this bill are designed to offset about 1/6 of the cost of the tax cuts, assuming they were made permanent. And so the Medicaid isn't about deficit reduction. It's just about paying for just a piece of the tax cuts. And I understand why a Democrat would come along and say, why do you need to take 10 million people's health insurance away to help pay for tax cuts? Let's put everything on the table.